Yes, I haven't fixed it yet. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Looks great.
I don't know why my picture won't show up. But yeah, it's fun, man. Fun when fun when this stuff won't work where you want it to, and it says it's loading another thing, but I don't want it to load another stream. I want it to load mine.
Yeah.
Colin, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. Feeling good.
Feel good,
Feeling
look good. Look
fine.
good, feel good.
Look good, feel good. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, everything's going really, really, really well. Um, I'm enjoying some coffee. I made some homemade pizza tonight, and I'm ready to
Oh,
talk The Stand.
ooh, fancy boy. Hey, Spike.
Hey yo, Spike. How are you doing, good sir?
Um, Not great,
Yeah,
but we're handling our business tonight, baby.
that's right, baby.
Um, I was hoping my thing would work because guess what I have um, that I wanted to share.
Huh.
I got a whole bunch of goddamn fucking boxes to open up,
Oh,
like
ooh,
9 of them.
oh, no way.
No, well, not 9 boxes, but I got 9 figures to open up.
Oh, I was just like, that's a ton of boxes of figs, man. That's gonna be
That's a
insane.
lot of boxes, baby.
That's so many boxes.
Sometimes people think that's a lot of boxes, but let me tell you something, Daddy. There ain't no boxes like the American Dreams boxes. So yeah. Anyway, I can't do that. So it looks like
Yeah,
I know what I'll be doing tomorrow because my ass ain't going to work tomorrow.
there you go.
I'm gonna take another day to try to get my body to not feel like butt.
Yeah, understandable.
So, but yeah. Colin, tell me about Stephen King.
Stephen King
Tell me about the
is
rabbits, Colin.
Stephen King's a maniac. And a
So
maniac.
can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
Stephen King? Because sometimes I hear this. Do you feel Stephen King is overrated?
No, no, not at all. I know he doesn't always have the best track record with like sticking the landing for his stories,
Yeah, no,
but
he does not always stick the landing whatsoever.
but the output is legendary. He's given us so many iconic contributions to horror as a whole, and even just to like non-horror, if you want to think of like, you know, The Body / Stand By Me, or The Green Mile, things like that, Shawshank Redemption. And I love the guy. I think the world of him. He's brought me into so many worlds that I've dreaded and also loved, and I yeah, I'm gonna weep the day this man sheds his mortal coil, because I don't know, he's the king, not just in name, but also in countenance.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Stephen King is a goddamn treasure. Should be treated
Yes.
as a goddamn treasure.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's going to be a shame when he does finally leave this mortal coil.
Hmm.
But you know,
Yeah.
that's the way the world works. People die.
It is.
So,
Shout out to our boy David Lynch.
yeah, man, that was a surprise. I didn't. I was like, whoa, really? David Lynch dead? Man, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was not fun. Another person I'd love to do, if not just one show, a couple, on just a lot of such an influence for me growing up. Twin Peaks had a huge place in my heart, still does, as well as like uh, Blue Velvet, Wild Hearts, Mulholland Drive, for instance, how crazy that is. Lost Highway, not just the film, but the soundtrack was a banger as well. Um, yeah,
I mean, you can't again. You can't fake the funk on the nasty dunk with him, because he did so much good work. I mean, it was just a
yeah,
ridiculous amount. Again, the output, the quality output too. I
yeah.
really think that kind of gets forgotten sometimes. That
And just
our boy there,
yeah,
he made some hella movies.
and
Um,
sticking to his vision too, and
yeah,
making it completely authentic to what he wanted it to be. Like,
Never. I don't see him as a director that ever compromised.
no.
I think of him in the same breath as I think of John Carpenter, and the fact that they both this is what I want to do. This is, if you don't want me to do it, then I can take my business elsewhere.
Yeah. Then don't hire me if you don't want me to do this. Yeah.
Because this is how I do my business.
Yeah.
This is how I do my business, baby.
Which, that's a little bit of Stevie King as well. He's going to do things his way. And they don't always, sometimes he ends up telling the same story over and over a little bit just to kind of tweak it a little more and get it right. But God bless him. God love him. May he always continue to do what he do, because what he do be so good. And with that, let's get into what it's your favorite book.
It is my favorite book of all time.
It's probably my second favorite of his works, behind looking at the Dark Tower series as a whole. Although this directly ties into the Dark Tower, as Randall Flagg is the main antagonist in that series as well.
Randall Flagg, also the main antagonist in Dragon's Eye, or Eyes of the Dragon. My bad.
And through a lot of different, he's kind of in the Stephen King multiverse. He's the antagonist to a lot of our heroes. And what a goddamn great character. Just someone you love to hate. Love to hate Randall Flagg.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a horrible. I mean, he's the devil, more or less.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they do a good job of doing that, of making him. I don't know.
He's sometimes charming, but
I think
always
he's a lot
repulsive.
Of the time. Yeah, I think he's a lot of
in the same breath. Yeah, it's
very charming.
It's an amazing. It's a just bouncing act that King does with this character alone. Not to jump ahead into things, but for how abhorrent he is, and you hate him from jump. He is also just, you can't help but smirk sometimes at some of the things he does and says, because he's just not just charming, but also I don't know, there's a wit about him, and at times he does some pretty dope shit. So yeah, I don't know, what a wonderful antagonist to have against our heroes in this novel, this beautiful novel.
So I would say this is also a novel that I don't know. I feel like this novel, more than any other, is the pinnacle of what King can do, because it literally is running full steam between characters. The story remains the same, but the characters, that's really what is hitting it hard. Is you are just going through these almost like vignettes of people, and who they are in the moment where the world ends. And I would say, I feel very personally that this is a book that is 2 books.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, there's definitely
2 acts,
Yep. I'd agree.
So I think that, that's very obvious, but I also would say that in a lot of ways, I think it's also 2 that have, in my opinion, vastly different agendas.
Yeah. Well, what would you say? Is it the first is the going through the apocalypse and the search for Mother Abigail / search for Randall Flagg?
I think the first part of the book is, more than anything else, a condemnation upon us.
Yeah.
Especially the government. It's a condemnation upon the system at large. and how one little mistake, one little thing, you can't see me holding up my finger very angrily and shaking it, because whatever reason my fucking video won't work.
Yeah.
But one little thing,
Yeah.
and that's the end of the world.
Yeah. One guy decides, I'm not going to do my job. And even you could even scale back and go further than that and say a bunch of dorks in a lab think, hey, this would be a good idea. And yeah, and then you just see throughout the beginning stages of this, people failing to do what they should be doing. You've got the one police officer, Joe Bob, who's played wonderfully by Joe Bob Briggs in the miniseries, who flat out lies and says, oh no, I didn't go past like my jurisdiction to go warn a bunch of people, even though I'm coughing and not feeling so good and stuff like that, and telling people that the quarantine's coming, which you could see as like a very kind act on his part. He's just trying to keep people he knows and likes and loves like safe, but also he's spreading a horrible disease. Or even go further back, and our first guy who just abandons his post to save himself and his family, which again, a noble act, but he spreads the super flu from one coast to the other almost, and it's
spreading the disease.
Yeah.
It's the line right out of Among the Living.
You're right.
Because that's exactly what happens. Is it just takes one. When you've got a super flu, it just takes one.
Yeah, and if he had just done his job, and it sucks, but if you just followed the protocol, did what you're supposed to do, sure, you're going to take an L for it, but you know what? You're not going to destroy the whole fucking world. You do it, but
yeah, it's weird how that works, huh?
Isn't it strange? It's almost like we saw something kind of similar in our own world, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, not to like as catastrophic of an effect, but I'd say maybe somewhere on a fraction of the scale, maybe an eighth of it for sure, because we lost a ton of people, and people definitely did not do what they were supposed to be fucking doing because they thought they knew better and made it much, much worse. So yeah,
I think the scariest thing for me about this book, and I read it at the same time where I read a book called The Hot Zone.
Oh, that's a hell of a double feature of reading right there. Holy shit.
I should know. I would have read The Stand once before that.
Yeah.
But when I reread it, I read The Hot Zone.
Yeah.
Which, it's a fucking
great book.
Great book, but goddamn mistake to
yeah, you wouldn't want to entertain
read those back to back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try something real quick. Hold on.
Go for it. But yeah, like Hot Zone is a true account of, I believe, is it
Ebola Reston? Yeah, Ebola Reston, the Ebola variant that came out of Reston, Virginia, in a chimp lab.
Yep.
That would have, if it would have went airborne, which was what was happening with the chimps, as the Reston virus got out inside the lab and went mutated to go airborne, which they did not know it could do at the time, and it killed all the chimps in the lab. Like there was like 150 chimps in that lab. It killed all of them horribly. And they were like, if this gets out, it's going to wipe out the Eastern Seaboard in 3 weeks. If we're unfortunate. And it's a very scary story because one of the main scientists, his suit rips.
Yep.
And they're pretty sure he's a dead man, and he sits in a contamination chamber, and he sits and he sits and he sits. And because they didn't want this to get out, his family has no idea where he is.
Yep.
It's fucking terrifying.
It is. It is.
It was one of those things where my dad was like, you should read this. And I was like, okay, it looks interesting. And then I read it. I was like, this is terrible. Why do you want me to read this?
Yeah, that book had a major effect on me too. Cause like, it's just like, oh fuck. Like
you find out why Ebola is scary.
Oh, God, yeah, like when there was that latest thing of Ebola within the last, I don't know, decade or so, and then like they flew that one dude over here for like medical care. I was like, what the fuck? What?
Wow.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no,
Ebola
don't.
is almost always a goddamn death sentence. So I mean, I feel bad that someone dies from it and dies horribly. That's
It's a horrible death.
It's a horrible, horrible death.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the super flu.
Yeah.
Captain Trips. I remember when I read this, and it wasn't the first King book I read, but it was one of the first three.
Yeah.
And I remember how the description of how Captain Trips kills you,
yes,
made me so viscerally uncomfortable because of the idea of like your neck swelling, like a bullfrog, and your lymph nodes getting to the point where they were rupturing, and you basically drowned on your own mucus. You can drown on your own blood if you have ruptures inside your throat. I mean,
and like the description of like how people's necks are bloated and black and things like that, like when they're dying. Yeah.
So I mean, I find that to be one of the most horrifying things, and it happens not quickly, and it doesn't happen like you expect it to happen in what we've come to look at, like in modern apocalypse zombie type movies. It's not like a speed of light thing. It's a steady death. It's a, people start to get sick, they can't slow it down, and they just keeps spreading.
It's sniffles and coughs, and
it's a lot of like, well, it's just a cold.
Yep. Yeah, everyone thinks they just have a cold.
Far too fucking familiar.
And then it's I'm feeling really warm, I'm getting a little sweaty, I'm feeling weak, and then I'm in bed, I'm having trouble here, I can't get rid of all this mucus going on, and
before you know it, you're dead.
Yeah.
Which then leads us to the folks
which it's such a realistic depiction of a virus as well.
Yeah, like, it's really horrifying.
Yeah.
Because of its realism.
Yeah.
So, which brings us to our, like I said, this is kind of, for me, that's the first half of the book, is people leaving places when Baby Can I Dig Your Man, and the unfortunate woman who offs herself leave New York, and they go to I heard someone describe that once as like, that's the ultimate zombie apocalypse scene with no zombies.
If you put zombies in this,
because you're just waiting for those bodies to move inside that tunnel.
God, yeah, that is such a
what's that character's name?
Comforting scene.
What's the pop singer's name? Baby Can You Dig Your Man? He's a righteous baby.
Is Larry Underwood.
Larry Underwood, who's kind of a shitbag.
Total shitbag in the beginning, and then
Larry's a guy who
completely turns it around.
He goes through a serious journey.
Yeah, he really finds himself to the point he's so starved to be a name, be famous, and close to the end of his journey, like there's a point where
he does get famous. He becomes famous.
Number
one when everybody dies.
But then, like when Franny, like there's a point where Franny, who's one of our heroes too, is like, she's like humming the song. She's like, do you remember this? I can't think of the guy's name who did it. And Larry doesn't say a word.
Nope.
He does not take ownership. He hopes to God she doesn't remember that he's that, because that's not him anymore.
No.
What a wonderful, just a great redemptive arc for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's some really interesting characters who go on but you can go on that journey when your book's like 1,600 pages long.
Oh yeah.
This is a tome.
Yes.
You can beat somebody to death with even a paperback copy of this book.
Oh yeah, you can do some serious damage.
So I think Larry gets a lot of Larry and Stu are kind of, to me, the more gateway characters at the beginning of the book, because they have two of the more arduous journeys.
Yeah. Stu's very much he's your everyman. Who very blue collar guy, is
Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan. You ain't got no legs.
Plays him fucking perfectly, just perfectly.
Yeah, it is the best portrayal of that character.
Yeah.
I think it's even better than what I had in my head from the book.
Oh, for sure. No, I'll agree. Like, even because I recently did the Audible version of this, the unedited one, and I just kept seeing Gary Sinise, and I was just wishing the guy was sounding like Gary Sinise, because, like, you know, I mean, the character's still there on the page, and it's still being, you know, reflected to me through the narrator's words, but Gary Sinise just nailed that role so well.
He really does. I don't think there's anything that anyone could do that would touch that performance.
No.
You know, it's just like, is it Nick who is
Nick Andrus?
Yeah. I think that, again, it's
my favorite character in the book.
Nick Andrus, played by Rob Lowe in the original miniseries Untouchable. Very, very great performance of that character.
Put so much heart and soul into that. Like, for like a 98% silent role, except for a few dream sequences. Like, you get him. You get exactly what Nick's about. Like, it's so great.
And, you know, I think that those are kind of, I do think that's kind of the thing that 94 series did absolutely perfectly, is it captured everybody. On how I thought they would be in my head.
I can't divorce the characters from the miniseries now, like the actors. When I go back and read this or listen to it, like those faces are there. Like, they from every character, even the ones that aren't necessarily the same as they're portrayed in the book, because there's a few tweaks here and there, but I'm seeing those actors instead. I'm like, no.
Nadine is a big twist, because they combine her with a couple the other character that Larry meets on his journey.
And then she comes, they use that character's name for a different character later in the miniseries, which I was just like, oh wait. But
another thing that the miniseries does really well is it knows where to cut, it knows where to add. But, you know, I think that's a very, very hard thing to do. And I think they do it extremely well. So
all praise to that miniseries. They nailed it. It's just, I think it's the best of all, even more so than it. I think it's the best of all those 90s miniseries. Like, there's no
Storm of the Century is my
God, I forget that. I forget about that quite a bit.
Yeah, Storm of the Century is my favorite, but I would be remiss if I did not pay the proper tribute to the other two, which is The Stand and It.
And don't forget the Tommy Knockers.
I can't even remember Tommy Knockers, so I have nothing to say about it, I guess.
It doesn't hold up the best. It's free on YouTube. Anyone who wants to watch it, you can find it out there. But
Rebecca DeMornay, isn't she in that?
No, it's Tracy Lords.
So Tracy Lords, okay.
It's Tracy Lords. This redheaded actress, I can't think. Margot Hilgenberger, maybe. I think that's her name. And then Jimmy Smits, who's the best thing about the entire thing. Just killing it. Killing it.
Smits is good. Almost everything he's in.
Yeah. And then also, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. I think it's Joanna Cassidy, the one actress from Blade Runner who's the first replicant to get with a snake. She's like the sheriff of the town.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, back onto The Stand.
Yeah, for real.
So we get through that first part of the book, and we kind of get tantalizing touches and tastes, I think, of what we're in for when it comes to Randall Flagg, who I think is one of the more interesting characters in his entire little multiverse.
Yeah.
Because he's definitively a bad dude.
Yeah, and you don't get much with him, to be honest, in that first part of the book, except for maybe
It's when he
when
he lets Lloyd out of
Lloyd out,
prison.
Lloyd Henry, yeah. When he lets
Mhm.
Lloyd out, like that's the first introduction to him, really, that you
Follow
get.
me or die.
And otherwise, it's very little snippets of like maybe popping up in people's dreams. Oh, he's got a little bit with Mother Abigail,
Yeah.
who is the leader of the good guys. And but yeah, it's not until like Vegas is really established do we get to see more of him. And even then, it's a lot of other people talking of him and what he can do. And until like I'd say maybe the last third of the book, that's when he really kicks into overdrive and you get to see a lot of him. You even get some chapters from his perspective too, and feeling what he's feeling. And but like until then, he's the dark man. He's the walking dude. He's this this mystery that there's nothing good coming from him, and he can be anywhere, in the crows, in the wolves.
Man,
It's
he
yeah.
can see he can see all of the world.
Yep.
He'll fill your mind with fear. He's the man with the power, and he's among the living. Follow him or die.
I love that you're doing
Hey
that.
man, that fucking song, it literally just is that. They were very much the American Iron Maiden for a while.
Oh yeah.
Where they were like, oh, have you read this book? Well, don't worry about it. I'm gonna write a 7-minute song about it.
Yeah. Hey, did you like what is it? What's the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner? Is that
Yeah,
like based
that
on
was the song that Iron Maiden did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read At Pupil? Oh, don't worry about it. We wrote a song
Oh
about it.
yeah.
Hey, are you a fan of Judge Dredd? Good. We wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
Fucking Iron Maiden, same way. It was just like a bunch of literature nerds who also were heavy metal guys and
Yeah.
decided like
they're such nerds.
yeah.
But like it's great. Like, yeah.
There's a
Like
really good documentary about them where you find out that Bruce Dickinson has a pilot's license and flies their plane. Oh, also for a while, he was one of the top ranked fencers in the world.
yeah. That guy has
He's
hobbies
wild.
upon hobbies
Yeah.
upon hobbies, and he can't be stopped. And
No.
I kind of love him for that.
Yeah, I am definitely a huge fan of Iron Maiden. I even liked them when Paul Di'Anno was the lead singer, but goddamn, Bruce
Bruce is
Dickinson
the heart and soul.
Yeah, he's incredible. There's just no way around it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about Bruce Dickinson being incredible. Anyway,
yeah,
this is what we do, Colin. We get off.
We go off on wild tangents. It wouldn't be this show or any of the shows we do unless we went off. We veered off and then very sharply course corrected back onto the road before we go completely into a ditch.
Yeah, no, I do love my ditches. Where are my ditches at?
Where my ditches at?
Anyway, when you think about this book, like when you really are putting your brain into it, what do you think about? Like, what are the things that? Because I
please. Oh, Spike, thank you.
Very good, Spike. Very good. Like when I think about it, I'm generally in that mindset of I remember reading this and not being able to put it down.
Yeah. It is like when you think of Page Turner, like, yeah, it's one of those things. Like the first time I read it, it was one of those first books where I was staying up super late.
Yeah.
With like a flashlight and everything in bed, just sitting there, like reading. And would,
being told you shut it down.
Yep.
And being like, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, not do. Yeah. Like, first you'd have the bedside lamp on, then that gets off. Then you got like, I remember I had an old school, like Goosebumps, like you could clip it into the like back of the book and it had like a little flashlight light on it. So I'd read by that. And it'd be one of those things where I'd find myself like bargaining with myself, like, okay, just one more chapter and then I'll go to bed. But then I'd get to that next chapter and be like, just a little more. And I would fall asleep with this book, like, because I just would read until like I nodded off because it was that compelling to me. And this was like, before I even read the unedited version, which I think is so much better. It just adds so many great little character moments, and including a whole new character who's probably the most disgusting and vile character in the entire book, which is the kid. But like this book is it's it feeling reading it felt like an accomplishment
It
and
did.
also a
That's a really
revelation.
good. That's an amazing way of putting it. It did
Yeah.
feel like I climbed an Everest.
Yeah. And not just like, like, oh, like saying like, oh, I made my way through like War and Peace, or I, made my way through like Waiting for Godot or something like that. Like it was enriching in a way where it's like, this really had something to say. This really affected me. This really tapped into hopes and fears in a way that not many other books had before that. And like, just the scope of it all, the adventure, the horror, the hope, the loss, the love and heartbreak that like goes through this entire saga, this big chunky saga of a story. Yeah, if the Dark Tower books did not exist, like this would probably be hands down my favorite Stephen King book, by far, and very close probably to being my favorite book of all time, like it is yours. Like it's a monumental piece of work. And rightfully so, a lot of people who are King fans are like, no, The Stand is the top. It's the top of the mountain. It's King shit of fuck mountain for me as a book.
I mean, yeah. I mean, how can I argue with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have this spot in my heart for this book to a degree I can't even explain.
Yeah.
I think it just hit me at the right time too.
Yeah.
As far as reading something that I was not at all prepared for.
Oh no.
Yeah,
And
I would love to be able to be like, oh, it was just a book, and now and I can honestly like, no, this was not just a book. This this hit on a level that my poor little brain could not handle.
And I think this is the book that really turned me around on Stephen King, because before that I just basically, I think I'd only read like his short story collections. So like I was like, he's entertaining as fuck. Like this is like, what an entertaining dude. These are fun little scary stories. Some of them, pretty like bleak as well. But then getting to this, like making it like my first of the King, like check
oeuvre.
Yeah, like it was like, oh wow, this guy he's on a whole nother level that I was not prepared for or aware of.
This guy fucks.
He does, man. He fucks hard, and and like just it's, oh god, yeah, like it's I think just for horror in general, it's an essential read. It really is. It's such an experience to go through the journeys that all these characters go through, into where they meet their ends or where they meet their salvations and things like that. Like it's something else. And the mercy some are shown, the brutality some are shown. Like it just, I don't know. It's almost this big commentary on both the light and darkness of humanity and what we're able to do to each other, both with cruelty and with empathy and compassion. And maybe I'm sounding highfalutin right now, but like I think like
it's as biblical, I think, as King gets.
Yeah, it's a truly towering achievement. And god, it's once you've read it, it just stays with you. It just stays with you. Like, oh god, it's a real journey. You're there through every mile that everyone takes, every step, every loss, every win. You were right there. And oh god, like I cried buckets when certain characters died, particularly like Nick, spoiler alert. But like,
well, let's be honest too about it. Not many folks come out of this unscathed.
no, oh my God.
If you're
Yeah.
like,
I can think of for who goes, for those who really take the adventure and aren't just who don't just survive Captain Trips, but actually get called to take those steps further, to like heed the calling of like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. 2 characters survive.
Yeah.
Out of many, including the bad guys and the good guys. 3 characters, I guess, survive, because another spoiler alert, fucking Randall Flagg ditches everyone at the very end.
I'm here to teach you all how to be civilized. One of my favorite things in the entirety of the expanded version of the book is that is that whole sequence.
Yeah.
It, to me, it's just the epitome of like, well, evil doesn't go away.
No.
It just moves. It just changes. It just adjusts.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I absolutely adore about that book is I read the first version of it.
Yeah.
Much like, oh, this is interesting, but it kind of just ends with the hand of God, which is, hey, nothing to fucking sneeze at.
No.
But I was always kind of like, okay, well, that's cool. What happens? And I think that, this idea that this thing, this version of us goes on and just keeps on rolling, baby. He's not slowed in the least bit.
No.
He just
a small hiccup in his plans, and he's ready.
Which is something that wasn't in the OG series.
Yeah, they put it in the new one though.
I've seen the clip of the new one with that in it, and I'm a fan because
it's probably the best part of the new version.
I like the actor
a
lot because I enjoyed True Blood. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I love He made me cry in True Blood, season 2, the finale, when his little master dies. I was a True Blood fan for many a season until I just kind of got away from me. But yeah, no, Skarsgård's a great actor, and a great choice for
Randall Flagg. Yeah,
Randall Flagg.
Perfect for Randall Flagg.
Although I love that actor from the
Gary Cole.
Yes, he's so. Is it Gary Cole?
It's Gary Cole.
I don't know.
I'm like 99% sure it's Gary Cole.
I need to look that up. I feel like it's some other dude. I think
Gary Cole's the walking dude. He can see all the world. He'll split your mind with fear. He's the man with the power.
Jamie Sheridan.
Ah, damn it. Why did I think it was Gary Cole?
He looks a lot like Gary Cole.
Wasn't Gary Cole in like a Supernatural series?
Yes, American Gothic. Which everyone go watch that ASAP. That's a beautiful, beautiful little show.
I think that's where I'm
because he's a Randall Flagg type in that. He's like the sheriff who's also like kind of like, is this guy the devil? Like you're not sure. But yeah, Skarsgård plays Flagg a little more like sensuous and seductive, while Jamie Sheridan is just smirking malevolence. And he
is the unrepentant bad guy.
Yeah, he's having fun. He's having a lot of fun, and and you have he is genuinely laugh out loud hilarious too at points in the miniseries where you're just like, this fucking guy,
this fucking guy,
check out this clown. And then you'd say that and he'd make you kill yourself with like a look or something like that, or you get eaten by wolves or something fun like that.
It's like I said, it's a very biblical play on everything. I mean, there is no
and faith is a big part of these books too. or
Yeah.
this book, I should say. Like it's such a thing, like to the point, like one of my favorite, and I'm a non-religious person to the core, but one of my favorite like little parts in it is our first group of survivors with Nick and Tom and like
Tom
Ralph.
Cullen.
Tom Cullen, M-O-O-N, that spells Tom Cullen.
Yep,
What a beautiful character. And
yeah.
Bill Fagerbaki, nailed.
Dauber, baby.
Patrick Starr from SpongeBob, like just
Oh, I forgot he's
God.
also Patrick on SpongeBob.
Yep. Like owns that role to the point where I was slightly upset listening to the audiobook that the guy sounded nothing, didn't even try to be like doing the Tom Cullen from the miniseries voice. He is just like, come on, man, that's not how he sounds. He sounds like
Come on, man.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Hey,
but like, yeah, there's so they all make it to Mother Abigail's, and Mother Abigail is this just ancient, wizened old black lady who lives in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by farm. She makes her own bread. She plays the guitar. She's a wonderful character, played amazingly by Ruby Dee in the first miniseries. And they're talking about how she's been getting visions. They've all been sharing the same dream. And, the dream of Mother Abigail and also the dream of the Dark Man. And she supposes that, these are all visions of God and that God's put them all on this mission to, do good and try to save the world as it is. And Nick is like, he writes on his thing that, I don't believe in God. And she reads it, kind of chuckles, and she says, like, that's all right, Nick. He believes in you.
God believes in you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's one of my favorite lines of the whole movie.
Yeah. It's a beautiful little thing that like, I don't know, in that world, there is this overarching presence that really is like, you know what? You don't have to have the faith in me, but I know that you are good and I need you on my side and I believe in you to like help people. And Nick becomes such a central, he is more of a leader than any other character up until his death. I feel like so many, even like Stu and everyone kind of look towards him in a major way.
Nick is the moral center, I think.
Yes.
You look at it
Perfect.
He is the guy who is kind of, for lack of a better term, the best of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he throws himself on a fucking grenade.
Yeah.
It's not really a grenade. It's a box full of TNT that little bitch made.
Oh, you're not a fan? What is his name? Harold Lauder? No.
Oh, yes, it's Harold.
Harold
is, you love to hate Harold. Harold is so despicable. Like, oh, that fucking guy. Oh, that guy.
You know that guy? That fucking guy.
That fucking guy, Harold. I can't stand him.
But that's the point. You're not supposed
to.
You're supposed to hate Harold with an undying passion, and it's easy to do.
Harold is a proto incel, and
that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, he is very incel-y.
Awful. He is that classic, I'm a nice guy. Until he's not, because he's also fucking insane. And harbors deep, dark resentments towards anyone and everything. Even if he doesn't know you, he makes, like, when they run into Stu, he's instantly like, fuck this guy. What? Yeah. I don't want him with us. No way. Why is he talking to Fran? Fran's mine.
There's that weird, like, he starts
ownership
off with the weird ownership and it never stops.
Never.
Until the very end of his life.
Yeah. It's not until
there's the moment where he's like, I shouldn't have done this.
When he's literally lying in a ditch with broken bones and facing having to like die of exposure or put himself out of his misery with one single bullet he's got left, like it just then dawns on him like, oh, I've been a slimy scumfuck and I should not have done what I've done. Like there were people that were giving me the benefit of the doubt, that had a place for me, that were giving me chances time and time again. And all I did was use them. All I did was use them because I thought I was better than them. And I thought that, you know, I deserved more. And then he, you know, he puts a bullet in his brain because his purpose was done. The Dark Man Randall Flagg had no further use for him.
No.
So he was like, Nadine, you know, do your thing, girl. Knock him off that fucking road, down that ravine.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Is it's a lot. A lot of it has to do with, you know, for lack of a better term, what is Randall Flagg's playing for you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's what does Randall need from you?
Yeah.
You know, most of the time he doesn't need anything from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even his right hand man at times, Lloyd, like you know, Lloyd rises by being Randall's second in command. You even get the point where Lloyd feels like, you know what, I think I've changed, like kind of physically as well. Like I think much differently. I feel like I know more. But with that, he starts seeing like, I don't know if this was the right play, but I'm too deep in it now. I think he literally says that, like,
he does say that. He's
I'm
like,
too far in.
Yeah, because it's when one of the guys he brings in
is gonna
says like, hey,
we're cutting
and running. This has gotten out of control, and
because they're like literally crucifying people, and
this isn't what we signed up for. And Lloyd's like, yeah, you can run, but like I can't. Like, he'll know.
Yeah, he'll know. And you even get the sense that like that Lloyd is coming close to his usefulness, the end of his usefulness. Because they're close to the end of the book. There's another guy that Randall's kind of starting to take in, who's like, he's giving these lists of things to that Lloyd has no awareness of. And I can't
that makes Lloyd very nervous. I mean, because, you know, I think Lloyd realizes in a lot of ways, he's only one step away from being the Trash Can Man.
Oh God, Trash Can Man is such a wonderful character. Such a wonderful character. I love Trash Can Man. And I love every character in this book, even the ones I despise. They're it's lovable to despise them. Like they
all serve a purpose. That's the thing. Every character serves a absolute purpose in the book.
For how many characters there are in this, none of them there's no filler. They're all there. They all have a role to play. Even someone as small as like the judge who comes in, you're like, okay, what's this guy? And then like him being the first of the spies that gets caught and stuff like that, and to see the brutality they go through, and then how they fuck his like capture up to the point that they like, you know, they blow his head off basically. And then that leads into us getting a first kind of glimpse of, oh, Randall Flagg's not really fully a man underneath. Like when he tears into this guy, and
that's a suit. It's a suit made of skin.
And I think that the description is like the guy feels teeth and claws as his like last thoughts, and it's just like shit.
But I mean, that's the whole thing, is like that I think makes Randall Flagg interesting is the fact that he's not. So it's kind of like you're just starting to realize as it goes along, like he's playing for an entirely different set of stakes than everybody else is.
Yeah.
And I think that is extremely interesting in the overall part of the book, that idea of like, well, who the fuck are you then?
Yeah. And
like, and what are you, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
I think that's extremely fascinating to me anyway, that this idea.
Oh yeah.
Like Randall Flagg is, you know, he's this complete, in a lot of ways, a complete unknown to most of the folks, because he's not at all what he appears to be.
No.
And he is very excited to make sure that you are in on it. but
Mhm.
you know just enough to realize you know nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I don't know, like always, you know, he's evil, but he's also like, I'm going to lead everyone to a better place. We're going to rebuild this world and it's going to be better than it was.
And I think that's
And
the interesting thing is like this idea of no gods,
yeah,
no masters.
yeah.
And he's kind of like preaching in a lot of ways is this idea of like we're all, we all together now run the show. No one
Yeah.
tells us what to do.
Like, we just got to take out this last remnant of these people who are holding back to the old ways, who want to keep the old world alive, and then we can forge ahead and make something new. Which, that sounds like a hell of a promise. That doesn't sound so bad, and you can see why. Even I think, oh God, I can't remember the character, but the one who goes over as a spy and becomes a lover to Lloyd. Um, she's like, I'm running into people and they're not bad people. These are good people.
Yeah, I
Like,
can't remember her name either.
but it's like, but they're here, and I can't get my head around it. Why did
Well,
they? Yeah,
that's the thing too I really like about Flag is Flag doesn't make anyone do anything.
no, he gives them a choice.
He gives everybody a choice. And now, granted, he does, especially in the case of Lloyd, it's like, hey man, you can come
Do you
with
want
me
to
or you can just fucking die here
eating
in a
your
jail cell, eating
yeah,
your fucking jail cell buddies.
and some rats and shit?
Yeah,
But
but I
yeah,
mean, he doesn't force Lloyd. At no point does he like put the gun to anybody's head
no,
and say, like, you're gonna do this or else. It's very much like, I mean, you could do this and it's gonna work out well for
yeah.
you,
I mean,
or you can choose not to, and we'll see how that works for you.
and we see, I'd say with Nadine, we see that struggle the best, where Nadine's aware, like, this is probably not the greatest, but like,
Well, my thing with Nadine is I think Nadine is one of the only characters in the book who has absolutely no agency.
oh really?
Yeah, because Nadine is someone who, basically they're like, you're promised to him.
Yeah, yeah,
And
okay,
so
no, for
she
sure.
doesn't really get a whole lot of choice in that, but she also makes no real effort to
She
not
ma-
be in that boat.
it's kind of, she makes a very, very poor timed last ditch effort, like, to try to get back with Larry, and it's just
I
like,
think
that
Larry is
boat
like, she looks at
sailed.
Larry as this is my last chance to not basically be the
Yeah,
bride of Satan.
yeah,
And
because she's
Larry,
like, if
by that
Larry
point,
will have
Larry's
sex with
moved on.
me,
Yeah,
then
Larry's
like,
moved on by that point.
yeah, and Larry's like, ditch please, like, I'm no, like, remember
I
how you
got a girl.
completely rejected me? I've got this kid I'm looking after. I've got this really sweet girl that's with me. Like, I do not trust you as far as I can throw you. No,
Yeah.
thank you,
You're
ma'am.
you've proven to be a very snaky individual.
Yeah, and everyone like just gets that feeling from her while she's spending like what time she does in the free zone of Boulder, when she
With
does make
Harold.
it there with gross ass Harold doing their dirty stuff. Um,
Boy,
God.
that's one of those things too where King's like, yeah, you know what? I am gonna take it here.
Yeah,
Enjoy,
yeah.
motherfuckers.
Hey, do you guys? She's gonna keep her promise to Randall, but she can do this other stuff. It's just like, oh, come on, dude. Like, why do I have to have this vision in my head right now? But yeah,
Creepy
no,
Harold.
King goes there, and
He does. And that's one
but
thing I love about King is he will go there. There's
but like,
there's no real taboo with that.
no, and
King.
he definitely goes there with the character of the kid who the trash can man runs into. And oh my God, is that character fucking like just the worst? Just the absolute worst of
Trash Can Man.
no, the kid.
Oh yeah, okay, I know you're talking about now.
Who later,
Yeah.
yeah, who's in the unedited version and who assaults Trash Can Man, and just he's, oh God, like, he's got this plan that, yeah, we're gonna go when I see Randall Flagg, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kill him and I'm gonna become king shit. And like, even though you're like a part of you's like, yeah, you also are very much on the side of Trash Can Man when you're like, that ain't right. No,
Yeah.
no way. We need to do something about this guy. And oh god, his comeuppance of getting surrounded by the wolves in that car is such a great sequence. And then the wolves lead Trash Can Man to Vegas and stuff. It's just, oh, it's so good. And
It's
Trash Can
peak.
Man's a wonderful character too, by the
It's
way. I
peak
love it.
King.
It's so good. It's so, and then later the survivors are not survivors, but some of our heroes, when they're making their final journey to Vegas to do what they need to do, they come upon the kid's skeleton and they call him the Wolf Man because he's locked in like kind of a death throw with the skeleton of a wolf that was clearly tearing his throat out. It's amazing. I just great just tying that up with a bow perfectly. It's I loved
Well,
it.
it's top notch Stephen King stuff, It's top notch King shit.
King shit.
So I mean, I mean, I think it boils down to, I can't think of another human being who has been able to write as many things that have drastically affected my view, I guess, and my thoughts on like fiction as Stephen King has. And that's saying a lot because I'm a diehard, like, Jack Kirby's my I ride or die with Jack. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's interesting to think about just the full breadth and scope of what he creates just in that one book. It's I find it hard sometimes to even wrap my head around it, which I know sounds corny, but it's true. Like I used to read it about every year to 2 years, and I haven't read it as often of late because it's an undertaking, and my eyes are not as forgiving as they used to be with some of that stuff. Like I get headaches and things. So, but I mean, it's brilliant, and there's so much going on in it, and it can be so arresting and its totality, that, yeah, I adore that. I adore the book. Like you said, some of the characters are truly fucking horrendously awful, evil as shit individuals, but you still like, there's still that thing there where you're like, oh, but this guy's kind of like a guy, not a favorite, but he's still a guy I'm still kind of like, oh, but what about, that type of shit is just interesting to me, that we have this person that is so good at taking these horrible events and still making them something that you have some sort of weird connection with, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm blowing smoke up my own ass today, but
no, not at all.
I don't know. I think it's definitively my favorite book, and it's a book that never ceases to amaze. And I think it's full of characters that I'm constantly, still to this day, trying to sort out in my head, like, why? Does that make any sense? Like, why would they do that? Why that decision? What? Again, pointing out Harold, who we both fucking hate.
Yeah.
Like, there's this thing. Like, I get Lloyd. I mean, Lloyd's a guy who doesn't have a fucking choice. He just doesn't. He has one, but he's too selfish to fucking just do it. He could have been like, I'm not doing that. But the reality is, there's no chance he's going to make that decision. You know, I think the other thing about Randall Flagg I find so intriguing as a character is beyond the thing that he never makes anyone do anything, is just the idea that he also always puts people in a position to where he's going to get what he wants. The one exception of that is one of my favorite parts of the whole book, and that is Glenn. When Glenn is in the jail cell and Flagg is like tearing him down verbally, and you're going to die like a dog and all this stuff. And Glenn's the old sociologist, and Glenn just laughs at him.
Yeah.
He just starts fucking laughing at him. And Flagg, they do a really good job of it in the miniseries. It's the only time I think in that miniseries where you see the dude who plays Flagg like get flustered.
Yeah.
And it's because like he realizes that this guy's not fucking afraid of him at all. This guy's like, yeah, I'll give a shit. What are you gonna do? Kill me? I'm already dead.
Yeah. They've all accepted that, like before they even set out that. Yeah.
So whatever you do to me will be nothing worse than what is gonna happen. So I'm dead either way. Do your worst, fucker. And I love that. Like, just it to me, it's one of the most triumphant moments of the whole book. It's one of the most triumphant moments of the whole miniseries. Is just old dude looking the devil straight in the face and being like, "Do your fucking worst, you piece of shit." Like, just zero fucks given. And I think it's very interesting. On top of that, I think it's just kind of like the old dog gets the last laugh, you know, kind of like, okay, yeah, you're gonna kill me. You know what? But you're not gonna win. You know it, and I know it. You're still not gonna win. You'll find a way to fuck it up. That's what you do. In a lot of ways, it made me kind of more into archetypes like that. Like I think Thanos is a good example of that. It's like it's been said numerous times in different comic book stories. How many times are we going to, you know, run in the same circle where you just still choose to lose later?
Yeah.
You could win. You're just choosing not to. Why? You know, you don't really want to win then. You just want us all to think you want to win, which I find to be, you know, really, really intriguing as, you know, a story beat of just like, here's this all powerful being who I think in the end knows they can't win. They just, it's not going to happen for them.
Yeah. And so they just definitely keeps like, just, it's all about, it's, even though like domination is the goal, it's always this battle of inches, really, totally. And it's,
well, I think the one reason I love that scene so much, especially in the miniseries, is it's the crack. It's the moment Lloyd too is like, oh shit, have I attached myself to the wrong guy? Like,
okay,
he let this guy like
yeah,
bust balls right in front of me. This old man who's literally going to die, and Flagg like loses his shit in like the most petulant way. So I think that's so interesting, is because it is like the moment of the realization, yeah, dude's not gonna fucking win. It's just wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, I think it proves that story has such a different vibe going on than I think we give it credit for across fully the breadth and scope. Because there's so much going on, like all the time. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
No, totally.
Make any sense? Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm always intrigued because of the little things like that. But I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. What do you think? Since we're kind of talking about it, what do you think is your favorite moment in the book, the miniseries, whatever it may be?
I think honestly, probably the most I really love the first meeting between like Nick and Tom Cullen. That to me is just I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's this it's a moment of levity amongst all this like chaos, and it's so tender and sweet and um optimistic and uplifting. And I don't know, I think it's the first sign that things can be okay amidst all this madness. And I absolutely love it. That and then the friendship that develops because of that. Like I don't know. It's I just I don't know. Them figuring each other out is just so great. Like Tom like realizing that Nick can't speak, like Nick realizing Tom's disability, like it's great. It's really it's tender.
It is. I think it's a weird thing too, where it's like how to explain it. It's a weird thing in that it is such a beautiful moment in such a
Mhm.
chaotic time. Does that make any sense?
No, for real. For real. No, that makes total sense. It's yeah, it like because even anything that's kind of good prior to that is still framed around so much like loss or hardship, and this is a genuine thing that is springing out of this that has no tether to anything being really bad.
Yeah.
It's a wholly new, wholly pure moment of goodness that is coming as a result of these two people meeting. And it's just and sets up such a beautiful friendship between the two. And the way they learn to communicate with each other, and the way they learn to lean on each other, and the the dynamics of their friendship. I just love it so much, so much.
It's so beautiful. That's the thing, is
Mhm.
it's, which sounds so silly to say, but it really is.
Yeah, because
It's such a weirdly beautiful relationship that
it is, and you have two people that are both shunned in different ways by the society that has crumbled, and are both hard to understand at large, and they understand each other perfect.
yeah.
And it's I don't know, it's just so great. It's the first island you kind of get to, or oasis I should say, after going through a desert of like just brutality and heartache. Like it's such it comes at such a needed point in the story.
It does. Yeah, it's a little it is like a little strange oasis. I guess I never really thought about that way. But it is.
Hmm.
It is like a weird oasis in the desert that is the Stand in a lot of ways when it comes
Yeah.
to like the brutal emotion toll that book can take. I would ask then, um, what was your least favorite character across the board, whole book?
Oh, the kid.
The kid
But
is.
even more than Harold, the kid is just disgusting. Like that is such like it. I feel like he's even more hateful or more easy to hate than Randall Flagg. Like there's just nothing redeeming about him. There's nothing that's fun to you feel gross reading those chapters that he's in, and you feel as uneasy about him as Trash Can Man does. In like Trash Can Man, you're like forced to go on this ride with him, and you feel trapped.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's such a weird. It's just overall, it's always such a weird thing when you start to look at some of those characters and you start to try to wrap your head around like them.
mm-hmm.
Did that make any sense?
No, yeah,
any sense. Like, I like to try to, I guess, in my head, try to pretend that, I can sometimes like look at a character and be like, oh yeah, I get it. I get this or whatever. But like those characters, I really don't.
yeah. Yeah, there's nothing. I don't think that there's anything to be gained from trying to understand him, because he is just, you could. There's just I uses people in more of a way than even Randall Flagg does. Like there's he like is just a force of like just I don't know, destruction seems like such a small scale word to even use for him, because he's just this like it's a character of like, I don't know, like every fucking sin like biblically that you could put into like one character, and it's like the kid is like the manifestation of that. Like there's like you get the sense that even if Randall Flagg had won, he would have continued to like forge this new society, this new civilization, whatever it was going to be. He was going to take, it would be under his leadership, it'd be under his rules, but there would be a place for people. Hell, even in Vegas, like, like no drinking, no drugs, like you got to stay clean, you got to keep your shit together. Like, and like, so there's, and maybe you could say it's self-serving for his purposes, but there's this basic level of wanting to take care of followers, even if it's just because they're followers. But the kid does not give a shit about anyone except for his own self-serving purposes. He doesn't need anyone. He's just going to use you and like fucking abandon you as soon as he can. You get the fact that the sense that this he's just going to burn you out, just even more so than Randall would, and probably for reasons even he doesn't understand, just because it'd be fun.
He is the most irredeemable character, because I also kind of look like with Randall Flagg, it's like that's what you were born to do.
Yeah,
you were built to do this.
That's his purpose.
Yeah, that's your great and terrible purpose.
And
as opposed to the kid where you're like, oh, you're just truly fucking awful.
Yeah, there's no greater destiny for him. He is a bullet that's been fired out of something and is just ricocheting, waiting to hit targets. And like there's no clear path for him to go. He's just like dinging off of things, breaking glass, shattering this, chipping off that, until he stops by some means, whatever that's going to be. And yeah, like this, I don't know, like especially what he does to Trash Can Man. It's just like, fuck this dude. Like this guy is slimy. And you can say that, yeah, like, Randall is using people for his own means, his own ends and stuff like that. But you never, ever get the sense that he would be as violating as the kid is, like ever truly, except for, maybe Nadine, but he needs Nadine to have his kid. But even then, once he and Nadine consummate, their dark marriage, their dark pact, like he just basically like props her around, is like, hey, this is my wife, check her out. You don't get the sense that he's going to keep continuously harming her until she decides, I'm going to fucking push every button I can on this guy so he will inflict harm upon me and I can just get the fuck out of this in the most drastic way possible. But, it will be an end to all of it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that by that point, Nadine's just like, I gotta get out. It doesn't matter how I get out. I just gotta get out.
I hope he throws me through this fucking window.
Which was one thing, like I heard about in the new one, that he doesn't throw her out. She jumps.
And I think she jumped in the original miniseries, if I'm not mistaken, right? Don't they change that for her?
It may be. I can't remember for sure now.
But yeah, in the book, she sits there and like just tears him up like a new one, and purposely enrages him to the point that he loses control and just throws her as hard as he could. And then as that glass is shattering, he's like, oh no. Yeah. Which it's weird to see the devil having
any type of contrition.
Feeling instant remorse. And even if it's just because then he knows, like, oh, my kid is not going to come about then. But like, with the character of the kid, I don't think there'd be any remorse for anything. If he murdered Trash Can Man, I don't think it'd just be like, oh, well, that just happened, and then he'd move on. Like,
you're just another person.
Yeah, probably not even viewed as another person. It's just you're just there. You're an obstacle. You're something. You're a piece of entertainment for me to use and abuse until you go sideways with me for whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time on the kid. Who's your? I think you said Nick is your favorite.
Nick is my absolute favorite. I love how he is so thoughtful. He has such a great moral compass. Like, when we first meet him, he's had the shit kicked out of him and he's in this jail, and he is jailed eventually with the people that beat the shit out of him. And he's in the jail because he has nowhere else to go, and they made him kind of a custodian. And he takes care of these people as they're dying. Like, these guys who like just jumped him and just beat the living shit out of him.
He very much has like a Dr. Sleep moment, I think, at that point.
Yeah. Like, shows so much humanity that he's like, you did this to me. It hurt me. It broke me. But, you're also a human being who's in their last moments, and I'm going to, I'm going to make sure you're fed. I'm going to put this wet cloth on your forehead and try to give you some bit of comfort as you're burning up inside.
Yeah.
Like, I'll make sure you can try to drink this water if you can. Like, and when and even coming across like Tom Cullen, I'm sure there's a lot of people in that town who abandoned Tom, who are just like not worth the effort. And Nick doesn't think that of him at all. He makes such an effort to try to get across.
I think they're kindred spirits at that point.
Yeah.
It's very much like, also, I think that Nick has that kind of feel of like he might recognize almost more than anybody else how serious the situation is. And it's kind of that, like, I get the impression with Nick sometimes when I've reread the book is he is like, thank God I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's the classic, the last man in Earth settles down to read his favorite book, and then there's a knock at the door almost.
Yeah.
So, and to have someone to talk to is one thing, because you could be stuck with like Lloyd or Harold, but to have someone like Tom Cullen, who is just, he's the Neil of the Stand.
Mm-hmm.
For those that haven't watched Skeleton Crew. Neil is
Neil's
all things
oh
good.
okay. Yeah, Neil's a good boy.
Neil's the best boy. Um, yeah, I don't know. I truly think that King is like dabbles a lot in like absolutes during that book of
Mhm.
like in a really strange way for me,
Yeah.
but in a good way. Like
Mhm.
it's very much like I'm so used to him having very complex characters who you can both love and hate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of a book, honestly, where the characters don't have some really difficult problems that they have to overcome personally. And
Mhm.
by the way, I'm opening toys right now.
No, all good.
Um, that they have some real personal stuff they have to like work through
Mhm.
um, to get to that kind of that final portion of their arc. Um, like Danny Torrance is a really good example, both
Yeah.
in The Shining, but even more so in Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, and Doctor Sleep, yeah. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
I would say though, this is the one book where I don't think that happens.
Mhm.
I think that everyone is, pretty much on one side or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, even Larry, who is probably the most morally gray character on the quote unquote good guys side,
Mhm.
um, his change happens, but it's not like I don't know. It doesn't feel like he's as ambiguous, struggles as Ben Mears in Salem's Lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's I don't know, maybe that's just my opinion, and you're more than entitled to be like your opinion sucks balls.
Oh no.
But I that's kind of where I fall with this book. Is it is by to me out of all King's stuff, it is the most like black and white kind of good and evil head to head. I mean, also let's look at the cover of the book for God's sakes. Um, you know, but
Mhm.
I don't know. That's just kind of where I fall with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think the lines are clearly drawn, and even when you have like characters mingling with each other that will end up on different sides of the fence, like Harold with Franny, like you know,
Yeah, he's all good for you, Franny.
yeah, yeah, like it's like this is a guy that yeah you've known for your entire childhood. He's your friend's brother, but also this guy is just you know he's not cut from the same cloth as you, he's
Yeah,
and he's not a Stu, he's not a Lloyd, he's not a Nick, he's not Mother Abigail, like, and so on and so forth. He's definitely to the other side. He's going to be on that side that Lloyd chooses. He's going to be on that side that yeah, that Nadine is on, and you kind of get that from the beginning of with all these characters of where they're gonna lie even when it's not explicitly stated,
yeah.
like and yeah, and even with Larry, you get the idea that he's done a lot of shitty stuff, but also Larry's aware he's done a lot of shitty stuff, and
Well, I think Larry's kind of alter in this whole thing is Harold.
yeah,
I mean, they're sides. They're different sides of the same coin.
yeah,
Because I think Harold's very much like, oh, I've done some bad shit. I'm in prison for a reason. But he kind of sees this as like, the world's
oh,
gone
you
to
mean
shit.
Lloyd?
Lloyd,
Yeah,
who's he?
Harold's the shitty,
Oh,
like
okay.
the
The
proto
names are
incel.
too like sometimes the names I get
Yeah,
very
but yeah, like Lloyd never, until it's too late, until he knows he's in too deep, Lloyd never takes any accountability. It's always, oh yeah, I was following Poke, that's why I went on this rampage,
yeah.
that landed me in a prison. It was this guy's fault, not mine. um and then even though they're disgusted by crucifying people, he's still doing it because Randall's telling me to. You know, I got to follow Randall. Like,
well, that's the thing I think that I get from Lloyd more than anything else is Lloyd is a straight up like soldier.
yeah, yes,
He is going to follow what he's told to do, and that's why I think he's flags first is because
he knows if he gives him this choice of death or freedom, that he will have a legitimate, like, true believer in him that
he'll have a real second.
Yep. This guy will do what I need him to do no matter what, because what I've done for him will be too great that he cannot back down from it.
Well, and also he does. I mean, again, it's that whole like you get the impression he's always been a follower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like
he maybe doesn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah. And, we meet him. He's with this guy named Poke, and they're doing all these petty, like, robberies and stuff like that. And then, one of them turns into a goddamn massacre, a huge shootout. And,
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a moment where Lloyd, I'm sorry, brain's going away, where he has a chance to kind of give up Poke, kind of put it all on him, and he doesn't.
Yeah,
because he's again, I don't squeal type of thing. If I remember right, isn't that in the book?
I think it is.
I'm not trying to lionize a really horrible person.
No, but like, if not that, I know there's a part where they agree on like no harming people, and Poke just does it.
Yeah,
and he just goes along with it still, until at the very. And it's not until Poke is dead that like then Lloyd is like, oh yeah, no, I didn't mean to do this, it was all him. And that by then, he's on the ground and the cops are over him and they're like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you just murdered a bunch of people inside that fucking convenience store.
I want to say something really quick. I just opened my Filmation She-Ra.
Yeah.
That's the most gorgeous fucking figure in this entire line.
Oh, really?
That's an incredible figure. It looks straight out of a cartoon.
I like those.
It's incredible.
Those cartoon figs from Motu are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to have gotten more of just the regular line, but
yeah,
I'm doing this Filmation stuff, and I also am not a huge fan that the bodies are a little bit different.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're a little bit different. They work together still. I mean, there's no like thing that way, but they're just slightly different. So what do we want to kind of say our final thoughts are? I think maybe too, I'd like to eventually come back to this and do like our own casting if we were going to cast the Stand.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'd love, even if it's just a Stand, or if we go through like the King miniseries of the 90s, which had just so many, we had such an amazing gluttony of like horror miniseries that came out like for primetime TV, which was so wild.
It was as close as we've gotten ever to the 70s. A huge
they had TV film booms. Yeah, like getting like Salem's Lot and all that, like for real. But yeah, I would definitely, this is I feel like we haven't even like scratched the surface on so many different like aspects of this book and stuff like that, or even the miniseries itself. Like I feel like there's a lot more to delve into.
Well, in an hour and a half, we can only kind of hit so many high points too.
True.
But
yeah,
it's there
because I feel like we just brushed over Stu. And Stu is such
and
character.
I seriously, I also like, again, Glenn for me, who also is like, hey, what are we gonna do with this when they kind of basically say we're kind of set up a government, but they're also kind of looking to like put who they want in charge.
Yes. And Glenn's like, are we?
Glenn's like, right? This is it. So we're back to fucking business as usual.
Yeah. He's like, I thought we were leaving this behind.
So we're just gonna keep doing the same shit and hope it's different.
Yeah.
Which, as the old man in that, I find that to be the most interesting thing. Is like he's the one who's like almost got this. He's the guy with the least amount of time besides sister,
Yeah. Mother Abigail,
Mother
but he's
Abigail.
also the one who's like probably more so than a lot of them ready to throw the old world away and be like,
Yeah.
we can make it a better place in a more truer.
Which is also
Yeah.
why it's so interesting when he's one of the first ones to be like, I'll go.
Yep. Oh yeah, he does not shy away from it. He's very accepting of it, and when his fate comes down to what it is, he's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, he won. That's the whole thing. It's like he wins.
Mm-hmm.
He literally gets to laugh in the face of the devil.
Yep.
And be like, that's the best. This is your plan. Like this is it. Like what a pathetic failure this is.
Yeah, and also to get such a triumphant death as that, like,
Yeah.
that, yeah, I'm accepting this, and also this guy knows that I know he's fucking just this guy's, he's
It's
nickel
falling
and
apart.
diming this shit.
Yeah,
And it's
it's falling apart. Like I won't get to see it to completely fall apart, but he knows and I know it's the clock.
This is the end for him.
Ticking,
Yeah, the sand is running out of the hourglass, and
these are now the days of our lives.
Yep. As the world turns, and yeah, like it's such a, it's set up in such a way that when he does die, it sucks. You're just like, ah, man, but also in a way you're just like, he went out like I don't know, like he stood on his own 2 feet, and he stood face to face with ultimate evil, and he made evil flinch.
Blink. Yeah, he made evil blink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to me like that
this old man
scene makes that character, and when you reread it, you're like, you get the impression I think upon rereading and knowing what his fate is, of going like, did he know the whole time? Like, did he just kind of know that this is what my fate is? So you know what, I'm going to be kind of the guy who tries to show these younger folks like there's a different way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll do it the way they want, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I find it to be interesting with him because I always felt like, especially in the miniseries, the '94 one, I can't think of the guy's name who plays him, but he's just marvelous in that role.
Oh God, yeah.
Is
much older actor.
Yeah, he just feels like there's this, like he knows how this is all going to come down. Mm-hmm. Even more so than I think Mother Abigail does, who is basically the voice of God, a prophet.
Yeah, she's a legit prophet, but I think he is I think she's got a line even like, I'll do your will, Lord, even if I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I think that Glenn understands where his place is probably better than anyone else. And when they are given that final mission, and they know that at least one of them will probably like fall on the way there, and that all of them will probably not return, he's like, yeah, okay, no, this sounds about right, but I'll do it because I know someone's got to do it, and I'm going to be that one, and I know I'm being called to do this, and I've got to do it. Like, let's go. And
he's also the voice of reason on the road.
Yes.
He's also the kind of the sage on the road as well. I always forget how important he is until I reread the book, and every time I reread it, I'm always just more and more, realize how important he is, and he's not one of the main characters.
No. He's very much a secondary character. We never really get a chapter from his perspective until it's Lloyd's chapter, isn't it, where we see his death? Yeah. So like we never get one from his perspective. He's first met by Stu, and they strike up their friendship and stuff, and he is just a welcome presence and a secondary character to other people's perspective. But yeah, like for what an impact he has, he's not one of our main guys, and he has, I think, more of an impact than I'd argue Larry.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think Larry's a great character and his arc is amazing, but yeah, the way, like, yeah, like Glenn's the Galahad of their little Knights of the Round
yeah,
Table. Like
yeah,
he's the pure and true one. Like it should have been him all along, kind of a deal. Where it's like, this is the guy that maybe we just, he was too old by the time the journey started. Maybe, he didn't have, the riz, as the kids say, that some of the other characters had and stuff like that. He wasn't, the square jawed, handsome Stu or anything like that. But this is the guy that had the answers. He knew the best course, and was able at the end of the day to walk that road, walk that line, and go as far as he could and would.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
great character.
He's the steady Eddie. He's the steadfast one, I think, out of all of them. He doesn't he doesn't question either.
No.
The only thing he questions, which I find interesting, is he questions the people.
Yeah.
He never seems, if I remember correctly, to question like anything else. It's just more like, are we doing the right thing? Like, is this
others' decisions, and not based on he never questions Mother Abigail, but he everyone else around him for the community they're creating. He's like, is this the right course we're taking here? Is this
do you guys just want to
doing?
relive past mistakes of mankind?
Yeah.
Is that what we want to do?
Yeah.
We're going to do a greatest hits as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Like, are we really going to just put ourselves up in this election and try to make it that only we are nominated? Like, is that really what we want to do here? Doesn't that seem...
Yeah, I always had, until I remembered that situation, I'd forgotten how shitty there is for that second where they're like, well, this is the best thing for everybody. And
if we do this,
is it?
Yeah.
Is it really? You guys, we're going to sit here and decide that?
Yeah.
Like,
we're going to make our group the group, really, that we're going to,
Doesn't he call Stu out on that whole thing too?
Yeah. He's very vocal to everyone in the committee about this is not cool at all. Like, I can't believe you guys are thinking of this, that this is even feasible. And I think he makes everyone feel pretty guilty about it, to the point where I think then they're just like, fine, okay, yeah,
because his primary relationship is with Stu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
fatherly role.
Yes, he's got a nickname. Oh, doesn't he call him West Texas, or is it East Texas? One of the two.
Something Texas, I remember that.
Yeah, they are both the first people that each other encounters.
Yeah,
and in the aftermath of everything, once Stu escapes from the
facility.
Yeah. And he just finds this old dude painting a river poorly. and they become just the best of buddies. And it's they're each other's counsel for the longest time. Probably Stu taking much more counsel from Glenn than anything, but they are a duo for sure. One goes hand in hand with the other.
I had a question, all of a sudden I lost it. Where does this fall on your King stories? Your top King?
I'd put it number 2 overall. I take the Dark Tower series as a whole and just completely mash that together into one thing that I call the Dark Tower. That for me is number 1. That is...
You said that earlier, didn't you? And I just...
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's all good. That scratches so many different itches for me. But if that had remained uncompleted, if he never got around to doing Wizard and Glass and then finally finishing the story.
If he had George R. R. Martin did?
Yeah, if he had just done Gunslinger, Drawing of the Three Wasteland, I would put this above all, and by a wide margin, because this is such such a true epic. And he nails the landing on this one. He does so well at completing this tale of giving closure and everything making sense. Even in the unedited, or even in the edited one, there's a sense of completion. So then to get just more of that from the unedited one, when we get the uncut version, and then it's just like, oh shit, it's like watching the Lord of the Rings movies, the theatrical version, and then you get the extended. Theatrical version works. It totally works. It's great. Then you get the extended, and you're just like, fucking A, dude. Hell yeah. Like, okay, all right. I'll sit down for another hour for you to just spoon feed me just beautiful shit.
Give me all this beautiful shit.
Give me just all of this. You want to give me 8 endings? I'll sit through it and I'm gonna enjoy it. Like, hell yeah, let's go, buddy.
Where does this fall on your scale of apocalypse movies?
Oh God,
that's what I meant to ask you a moment ago, and before I asked you the king thing.
That's
a good question, huh?
Oh God. Oh man. Jeez, yeah, the minis, the 90s, the 94 miniseries might. Oh man.
Let's just compare TV real quick.
Yeah.
Better or worse than Fallout?
Oh, I think it's better, and I love the Fallout TV series. That first season's so good.
Better or worse than The Last of Us?
Better. And I love The Last of Us. I thought that was really well done.
I'm trying to think of other apocalypse. Did you watch Jericho?
No, that's one that slipped past me.
I was gonna say better or worse than. I really liked Jericho. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was in Kansas, but B, it was very much like far more in the realm of like this shit can happen.
Yeah.
It took itself very seriously. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Better than The Road.
Yeah, just because like The Road is great, don't get me wrong, but The Road is also like, hey, you want to get really fucking depressed.
Like, it's misery porn.
It is. No, it really is.
Better or worse than Mad Max?
That's the thing I keep thinking of. Is it better than the Mad Max saga as a whole? Because that's another thing I take as a whole. And I'm really having a hard time because, Mad Max is so fantastic. The Road Warrior, Beyond Thunderdome, Fury Road, Furiosa, like it's such an amazing spectacle and such an amazing piece of storytelling and the lore of it all. But I think it might be The Stand because it's able to, it balances everything so equally in such a good way while also staying and feeling grounded, even when the literal hand of God comes down to set off an atomic bomb. Something as fantastical as that happens. And it still seems, yeah.
Here's my thing with that. To me, that's just like the end of Watchmen.
Yeah.
If you take the giant monster out,
mm-hmm.
I think you hurt the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you leave the giant monster in, it makes me go, oh, okay. Well, this feels so like out of the blue.
I don't know, Super Spike. That was my favorite season of Fortnite so far. I'm not totally sure about that, buddy.
But you leave that in, and it just has such a like,
yeah.
Oh shit, we don't know what this is, so we have to pull together.
Yeah, yeah.
As opposed to just
making Dr. Manhattan the cause, which it works in a way, but also it shortchanges so much.
Yeah, to me that like why now?
Yeah, yeah. When that, yeah, if yeah, Yeah, it's I think the book is
The hand
definitely
of God, the giant squid monster, and Han shot first. No questions asked. No further
for sure.
questions.
Yeah. It's I think The Stand might take the cake because like the novel is easily my favorite um like post-apocalyptic novel I've read by far. It's just it's even before like we get or in spite of the visions and stuff like that, all those things that are going on, just seeing the collapse of things and
Yeah.
the way the dominoes are just falling in a row for everyone and how everyone's relating and dealing with things. It feels so real and so natural. And the progression of it is it it just feels like, yeah, no, this is happening.
Not with a
Um
bang, but with a whimper.
exactly. And I think that's where the flip side of that, like Mad Max, I love Mad Max. I love that universe so much. But that is the bang. That is boom. We're cranking this shit up to 11. Hey, you want to fucking have a red mohawk and run around with a little sexy boy on the back of your motorcycle and have, you know, football shoulder pads with feathers glued to them? Do it, buddy. But that like we don't get that here. Here it's still everyday people and they're doing a job and they're trying to hold on to the vestiges of everything they lost. They've not gone like full feral in like the matter of like, a couple of, you know, years and stuff like that. And not to say that atrocious shit isn't happening or that there aren't these groups out there that are definitely, plunging and pillaging or plundering and pillaging and stuff like that. But it's
Well, that's
I
one of
don't
the
know.
things I love is there's all these other like little interludes of King telling you what's going on elsewhere of people
Mhm.
dying.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is happening there. This person lived this short life and then they die.
Oh, that's such a fantastic. I love that one like brief chapter he does where
Yeah.
it's just all these people and oh yeah, no, this
Who survived the plague but didn't survive the aftermath.
yeah, yeah. Like, oh, there's this lady who, she found this old ass gun and she, was never going to, she's always worried about getting raped and stuff like that. And then some guy comes up to her home, like asking her for help. So she richly quickly gets this gun, doesn't realize she doesn't know a thing about guns, has not properly cleaned it, and it backfires in her face and kills her when she pulls the
Yeah.
trigger. It's just like, shit. Okay. Or there's the one where it's like a little kid and this is brutal, but like I think falls down a well and like breaks their leg and then just dies of exposure down there.
I think
Like,
that's what it was.
yeah, yeah. It- and that's the fascinating thing. It's like the world is still happening in
Yeah.
mundane ways. And even after Captain Trips goes through, everyone's still worried, like, oh shit, yeah, we survived this, but we can still get sick. We
Yeah.
can still, yeah, like there's still
There's no
disease out there.
antibiotics being
We've
made.
got people who are pregnant. What are we going to do about that? Like, people are having, all sorts of like congenital issues that that were present before. Yeah, we survived, not having this super flu, but who's to say that, you know, regular influence is not going to come around and take us out, or that, we're not going to, someone's like going to have a heart attack and we're not going to have adequate, like, there's the guy that keeps driving around drunk
Yeah.
and is crashing into shit. And I think he eventually, doesn't he die? Because he
I
like,
believe he does die.
yeah. So yeah, it's just like life still goes on in the most, and people are going to die in the most mundane everyday sort of ways. um and I think that there's something cool to me about that yeah, this big huge event happened that seems monumental and epic in scale, but it's still the everyday world. and everyday things are going to happen, good and bad. While say like in Mad Max, everything is turned up to 11. So you're not so much worried about, yeah, you know, maybe in Furious or Fury Road, they make a nod to, yeah, like, you know, people need their water. Or you see Mad Max like scrounging for food, but everything's about gasoline. Everything is about like kicking ass and taking names. And you know, and surviving through sheer brutality, while the Stand takes that part of like, okay, so we need to make sure that the meds that are in the pharmacy over here are still in good condition, that we can take them. We need to set up like a government here. We need to have a committee. We need someone to take notes on things. We need someone to make sure the roads are cleared when the snows come in. And like it's still the world, even though the world has died in a way, in a greater sense. There's still that we still need to endure. We still need to go. We still need to find ways of, yeah, we got to restore power to Boulder, because you know everything blew out on the circuit. So how we do that, like there's still there's so much more for me of connective tissue, of things that hold me and ground me to what's going on, that make it seem so much more plausible, so much more horrific, so much more heartfelt, earnest, like realistic. Even when then you add those other elements of Mother Abigail, the walking dude, the visions that people are having, the hand of God, like yeah. So I think that's why the Stand stands above them all, because as with, even without those elements, or even with them, I guess, these either or, the central thing is these are everyday people that came from a world that is every bit like ours, except it got the wrong dose of something, and we saw something very similar. It just didn't get as bad. Thank God. But like, yeah, it echoes so close to everything that we have here, and it's it's like Earth 616 and Earth 6160 from the new Ultimate stuff. Like, you know, it's just that maybe like, you know, so and so didn't do this, or you know, they have a Larry Underwood, we don't. Like, otherwise it's the same thing. And I think that works in such a way that, like, yeah, it really, yeah, it's just, it's so good, and it treads a line so much better than I think like Of the Road, or of uh what's the other one that I'm thinking of, the British miniseries that was also like basically misery porn, where like Russia and America fire a bunch of nukes at each other.
Oh God, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's just like
It's
the most brutal aftermath of that.
Is it called Aftermath?
It might be. I can't remember, but it's like the iconic image of it is like that traffic warden with like the dirty cloth over his face, and there's a hole for like one of his or two of his eyes to look out of, or whatever, like that. And I think things like that in The Road
Threads.
are, yes, Threads are designed to be so brutal, because it's like, they really are trying to, like, okay, this is going to be a cautionary thing, and we want to like make it seem as bleak as possible, while King is like, there's going to be bleakness to this, but also, you know what, humanity can find a way. We can find a way if we are with each other, and if we allow each other to depend on each other. And I think, like, there's something uplifting about that. I think that's something, especially now with like the current administration and shit like that, that's something I've been kind of leaning into, is like this community we've got that we're making here, like, you know, with everyone on the Discord, with everyone that, you know, shows up to things and stuff. Like, shit might be getting crazy and real out there, but you know what, we're here for each other. We're here to lean on each other. We're here to rally around each other, support each other, you know, and lift each other up, and be there to fight the good fight for one another. So, and you know, you don't get that in a lot of other post-apocalyptic things necessarily all the time. Usually it's more about like just these huge heightened moments and a lot of badassery going on, like crazy fights and all this other shit. Or else it goes the other way, where it's like a sermon about how awful humanity is. And I think King does such a deft job of being right down the middle with it, of like, bad things are happening, but people can be good as well. And yeah, so there's hope, and I think that's such an important message to have, because you know, even if the bomb drops, you know, there's going to be those of us remaining, and or if another flu comes through, and you know, there are going to be those people who have the immunity, and we're going to need each other more than ever in those moments when things crumble, when things fall apart. um and I just love that there is that in this, and it's and that it is so grounded, and even, yeah. So yeah, I think The Stand is just, it's, as much as I love other IPs and things like that, like Fallout, like Mad Max, um, like Steel Dawn starring Patrick Swayze, um, like, yeah, the Stand just, it nails it in such a way for me personally, that it's the one thing I go back to and think of probably most often than all these other things. Like, I love Mad Max a lot, but I don't think of Mad Max all the time when I think of like, what's an amazing post-apocalyptic like magnum opus. When I think of like, what's some badass action and like cool ass carnage and shit like that, then I'll think obviously of Mad Max. Or it's like, what's a really fucking sweet video game? Oh, Fallout. Okay. But like, when it's like, what is out there, that when you think of the post-apoc, like, what's post-apocalyptic that's amazing? You know, obviously it's like, oh well, A Boy and His Dog, The Road.
Yeah,
But
I always forget about Brandon's dog.
above all, it's The Stand. It really is. So yeah, it's the cream of the crop for me when it comes to that. As long as for the 20 minutes I probably just spent saying that. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, man, I love that. That was tremendous. I'm very happy you did that. I don't think I have anything more to add to that than this is a book that I think should be required reading.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. For
If you haven't
contemporary
read it,
American
please do.
literature, it's a towering achievement. It really is, and it, you know, and not just for us spoop troopers out there, you know, who like that stuff. I think this is something that could be accessible to anyone. It really is one of those just amazing reads that once you read it, you will be gripped by it, and you'll come away from it being like, I'm glad I spent that time with that, and I can't wait to revisit it in the future. Like, yeah, it just, I don't know, like the first time I read it, I remember it just stuck with me for like weeks.
Yeah.
I'd read other books, but I'd find myself thinking about The Stand. And then the miniseries was such, I rented that so much as a kid, um and would sit down and watch it in one whole sitting, like all 4 hours of it, because it was that enthralling. Like, couldn't get enough of it. When it first aired, it was such appointment television, where it was like, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything else. I'm going to make sure my homework is finished. I'm going to make sure everything I need to do is done, because I need to see what the next step in this is going to be, because it was just that good. So yeah, watch the miniseries for sure, but most importantly, above all, like read this book. And once you read it, share it with people that you know and you like, or even a stranger. Go shove a copy of The Stand in a stranger's face and be like, read this, and then run away. Make it as mysterious as possible, so they'll feel like, well, maybe I should. This weird guy just came
Be
and did
weird. Be out there.
this.
Be out there being weird.
Be weird, be free, let your freak flag fly, because you never know when Captain Trips is going to come up and we all die. So yeah, go distribute The Stand as if it were a pamphlet. Like, just yeah, it's I think, especially, unfortunately, when King goes, and he will, because we all will, I think this will enter into that lexicon of like must reads. I think when people go back and review his work, that they will be like, you know what, this is something that should be taught. This is something that can be put out there to be examined and is worthy of examination, more so than maybe any of his other works. And I'm saying that even over the Dark Tower, because um, even though the Dark Tower stuff is my favorite of his overall, and probably my favorite book of all time, the series as a whole, like it's in a far away alternate world of such fantasy and horror and stuff. While this is so grounded and is so connected to us in this world, that I think it definitely is excellent fodder for discourse and debate and deconstruction and dissection. So yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we went an hour longer than I said
Yeah.
it was going to go. So I'm going to wrap it up by just saying, hey, thank you guys for watching and
Yeah.
and for watching in the future.
Yep.
Thank you to Colin, as always, for hosting
Thank
this.
you, Ben.
Um,
Even though I can't see you, you're just a black screen. I am so glad to have hung out with you for these last couple hours. It was a highlight. I love getting to talk with you about this stuff, because we both have such a love for these things. And when we both have such a hyper big, true, hard on our sleeve love for something that we're both vibing on intensely like this, it's so joyous. It's such 2 hours flies by
it does.
because
It does. The only reason I knew it was 2 hours because I looked up and saw the counter. I was like, holy shit, we've been talking for 2 hours.
yeah.
I'm not sure what we're doing next. If we're going to, what you got going on next week. I kind of feel like maybe we'll.
I think I've got Tuesday off again, so if we want to do,
We can do either one. We can spoop it or we can mang it. I'll leave it up to you.
oh, okay. Spike, what do you think?
Put it in the Discord because
Yeah.
I gotta go take some ibuprofen. I'm dying.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm in a lot of pain.
Oh yeah, no, buddy. I'm so sorry.
No,
Okay, yeah.
you're good. I just like hit a wall. I was like, oh no, I'm
Yeah.
feeling it bad. All right. Probably back on Sunday, I guess. I
Oh,
don't know. I'll go ahead.
huh?
You were gonna say something.
Oh, awesome. If we're doing Sunday, because
Yes.
yeah, I'll definitely show up.
Cool. All right. Otherwise, have a good remainder of your week. Have a good Saturday. We'll see you when we see you. Bye.
Bye.